This was driven more by the need for a change than for the sake of a school project. I and my 3 friends were Kim, Rosie, Baron, and Tom, respectively. That made our group. Our group was given an assignment to do research on the aftermath of Earth's World War III by our professor. That was the plan until Tom jokingly suggested we visit the planet itself. Yeah, sure. Everyone shrugged him off. Nobody took him seriously. But the next day, to everyone's surprise, Tom somehow produced a space pass, probably through his father. That pass would allow our spacecraft to leave the atmosphere, the Martian atmosphere, and that was the only thing one needed to travel to Earth's moon or to any other place out in space. The year was 2478. The only time I had gone away from Mars was in a school trip and once in my early childhood. Curiously, your parents take you to see all those nice places at the age when you can't even recall it in the future. This was the first travel we were going to be on alone, so to say that we were excited would be an understatement. Rosie wanted to tell her parents, but we all knew how that was going to end. So no parents were told anything. I mean, Tom's father knew about it. Wasn't that enough? Now when I think about it, there was nothing more stupid we could have done. The day was here. All of us pooled our money together to rent a spacecraft at a local dealer, got ourselves settled, made sure everything was ready, that all the maps were working, the batteries were good, and that of course we still had the space pass. Soon we began our ascent. The pass was required after we climbed over 50,000 feet when the patrol asked where we were headed before any one of us could say anything. Just for some photos, officer, for a school project. Tom spoke out, showing his school card. The officer looked at us, so we showed our cards too. All from the same school, sir, said Tom. He was the one, if I have to say it out loud, the leader of this group. He was popular too. I admit I used to be a little jealous of him at times, but he was not a bully. He was a good friend. Baron was the most lazy person you could imagine. Rosie was good at heart, and I was somewhat of a timid but much room to grow kind of guy. As we were traveling now through space, with darkness surrounding us in all directions, first we thought we'd stop at Earth's moon to meet some friends, eat some of their cuisine, but most importantly, we wanted to check the spacecraft one last time before entering the very thick atmosphere of Earth. But since all systems were working fine, we didn't risk stopping there and getting questioned again, so we pushed on ahead. I suggested we reduce our speed before entering the atmosphere to lower the friction or to avoid any other potential problems, and so we did. We were headed for our ancestral division, or I believe they call them countries. We were headed for the United States of America. In movies, in documentaries, in cartoons, books, this country was everywhere. I mean, most of the people back at Mars are from the United States, but I believe the reason for this popularity also had to do with the part it played in the World War III, the final World War III. We were landing on the West Coast at a place called Los Angeles. Right when we were about to land, the radiation meters shot up. This was expected. We put on our gear and got ready to go outside. Instantly, the first thing we noticed was the weight. Everything felt heavy. Even the ground felt stiffer. And the plants, they were growing out of everywhere, no fancy contraptions, nothing. This was like a dusty heaven. And what happens when you see heaven? You take photos, which we did. Everything was interesting and everything was being recorded. There was even a huge sign that said Hollywood on the hill in front of us. This was just like we thought. Mesmerizing. After a few minutes, I went back inside to check for something when Rosie and Baron were walking towards the huge sign to try and take better pictures. Tom was on his phone looking for possible places to visit. When I came back outside, let alone the other two, even Tom wasn't around. I checked my phone for any notifications, and there wasn't one. I walked further down the road and spotted Tom stooping down over something at the entrance of an alleyway. When I got closer, it was basically full of some old garbage. "What is it?" I asked. "Come on, look for yourself." It was an old newspaper questioning whether a nuclear fallout could happen on Earth. Well, this was going straight for our title page. I tried finding more things in the pile of things ahead when I heard something. I looked at Tom, and he was looking back at me. He heard it too. It was a weak crying noise, like a weak human crying noise, and it was coming from the other side of the wall, separating the alleyway. "Hello?" Suddenly, the voice stopped. "Dude, how many animals you think survived the fallout?" Then it came back again, this time like a demented humanoid growl. We looked at each other again in horror, both knowing without a word that we had to get out of there. Whatever that was, we were not going to stay there to find out. As we ran back to the ship, the growling continued in the distance. It was when we were inside, we tried making sense of it all. Shouldn't we call them back? They've been gone for a while now. And tell them what? It's only more trouble if Rosie gets a panic attack. Plus, we have no proof. There was his proof. As we looked outside again, there were tens of creatures walking on two legs, running towards our ship. They looked like humans, but weren't humans. They couldn't be humans. Their heads were wider, their limbs were longer, their skin was covered with blood, and they ran faster than humanly possible. Now they were 50 meters away from our ship when we got out of our shock. We had to move now. I quickly reached out to get the door shut, and Tom turned the engines on. Tom was still trying to lift off when those things rammed full speed into the side of the ship, shaking our core. Finally, we were off the ground as I tried calling for Baron. He picked up, and I explained everything to him in whatever language I could muster at that point. I told him we were coming to get them and to stay out in the open. Tom sped the ship up to put some distance between us and the creatures. Now Baron and Rosie were down below as Baron was waving his hands and arms in the air. Rosie looked confused. Tom lowered the deck to get them on board. At this moment, Baron was running towards the ship, followed closely by Rosie. The anxiety was uncontrollable. They were taking too long racing down the hill. In a few moments, Baron leapt on and held on to the deck, getting on board. Rosie was still some meters back. All of us called her to speed it up. She had to move. But suddenly, the front of our ship got brushed by something fast-moving. Right in front of our eyes, Rosie was attacked as she screamed for our help. We couldn't do anything. All we could do was watch as those demons devoured our friend as they killed Rosie. It's been 40 years since that incident. And it's surprising how I go days, if not weeks, without recalling this story. Baron's now in the military, Tom's an engineer, and I am a frontline worker at a hospital. When her mother asked about her, all we could say was, "She didn't suffer, ma'am. She didn't suffer. It was quick." Rosie would have been a teacher if she was with us now.